Rebel salute, rebel salute, rebel salute, rebel salute, loot. Absolutely, rebel salute to everyone out there. Give me a second. I need to fix something. I need to fix something, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry. Sorry about that. I'm back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends, enemies and comrades, wherever you are, I'll make this short. This is more of a video response to what my previous video. I got wonderful feedback from the previous video. People are just going after me after I mentioned Julius Malema, asking the question: is Julius Malema a fraud? Because Julius Malema allegedly received money from the Queen of England, which was not disclosed, and that was part of the reason why he fell out with Winnie Mandela. So I posed this question to my friends, especially my South African friends and Zimbabwean friends. How can you claim to be against the Queen of England, the English monarch, while you receive money from them? It's either you're scamming them or you are actually carrying out their agenda, okay? Because remember, these guys, these global elitists, which makes part, the English monarch is part of, they usually fund the main parties and even the opposition. We can take an example of the fight. What is it called? Is it the Napoleon fight? It was where they were funding the Rothschilds were funding both sides of the war, and it's the same thing with Hitler in World War II. Okay, they were funding the both sides. There's a book called by Shakin and what's that other Tapley. I forgot his first name. Something Tapley and Shakin. They wrote a book that's called, the title of the book is called Unauthorized Biography of George Bush, of the Bush family, of George Bush. Okay, the unauthorized. You can find it online. You can't find it on any bookstore. Okay, they don't have it, but you can find it online. I think on Amazon or some website. But it mentions how Prescott Bush, the father or the grandfather of George Bush, the father of Bush 1, okay? Prescott Bush, who was an oilman in Texas, was working with the government and was funding the Nazis in Germany, okay? Okay, while the official government, of course, they were fighting the Nazis. So the global elites have always financed both sides of the war, okay? So this is not something uncommon. Julius Malema probably is in the hands of whatever. Yes, we might ask ourselves, how could it be? Because Julius Malema is all Pan-Africanist and all this. Listen, it's the same thing. Judge them by their action. Rutendo told us, mentioned the case, the 1454 law of discovery, when the Europeans had this law where they said, if we go to Africa or any indigenous country, the indigenous people can be they can be chased away and they take their land, and the Europeans will claim that land as theirs. Lawfully they'll claim it, and they say that's why you see after the 1895 European Convention, when they said, hey, we are going to Africa, we are going to divide it up, and the land there will chase the indigenous people and take the land. And once we take it, we'll use that law, the law of discovery of 1454, okay, where it allowed them to take the land of the indigenous people and claim it as theirs and set boundaries. That's when they started this Kenya, Tanzania, whatever, Zimbabwe, or whatever. They gave it different names, okay? They divided up with Germans, Italians, English, French, so forth, okay? So what I'm trying to say is this: the new wave of neo-colonial rule is with a black face. You've known that. And most of the time, how it is orchestrated, how it is done through corporate power. These corporate power, transnational corporate powers, they have more power than the sovereign nations. That's why I mentioned I am not in support of this idea of borderless Africa, because it takes away your sovereign nature. You are a sovereign being. You decide what you want to do with your future within the borders or within the confines of your family. I cannot come in here and say, hey, you know what? I have a borderless policy rule. Anybody can come to my house and eat whatever they want and leave and take my wife and raise my kids the way they want. We don't have any restrictions. We are borderless in this family. You just come in and eat what you want and leave just because we are Africans. No, 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 no. Yes, you can say that they divided up our land, okay, and confined us within this, things we call countries now, okay, which is fine. It was not okay then. We didn't fight against it then, but we can rectify that by, number one, like in Kenya, we have land reforms. We can go back and see the historical owners of these lands that were taken by the British, okay? And they gave it over to their stooges like the Kenyatta family, okay? That's why we have that Ndungu report where we can go and see whose land was what. It is traceable. It is traceable, okay? 1800s was not too far away. There are documentation about who owned what. There are people, grandfathers and grandfathers, they can tell you who owned what, okay? But anyway, I'll get to Mandela and Julius Malema. I'll be very brief. I'll be here for 30 minutes. If you want to join the conversation, let me put the link out here because I know some of you might want and join me to dispute what I'm saying or agree with me or disagree with me. So I will put up the link. I'll put up the link. There's the link, ladies and gentlemen. If you're on YouTube, you can see it. Let me go to my ex and see, not my ex-girlfriend, my ex, Twitter. Okay, here's the ex Twitter. If you want to see what I mean, there you go. All right, that's the link. You can join the studio. I will include you. And if you want to debate me, if you want to say, hey, I don't agree with you, go in and talk to me. You can tell me what I'm doing wrong. Now, I know some of you are asking yourself, how dare you say Nelson Mandela was compromised? This is not to take away anything that Mandela accomplished, okay? Mandela did well, not only for Africa, but not only for South Africa, but for Africa as a whole, okay? There's this debate, and that's, there's so much I want to say because that's why I'm so all over this. I want to correct Malema in what he said before I even get to Mandela. Again, Malema came to Kenya and told us that even if Raila lost election in the broad daylight, if they cheated him in broad daylight, there should be no violence. Okay? And I maintain this, and I still maintain the position. While we do not, let me not say we, I do not support any violent behavior, violence against another black man or any other human in general, okay? But the truth is, sometimes violence is necessary. It's not the best option, but it is a necessity under some circumstances. It should be the last resort, okay? Malema keeps on telling us, oh, we should be peaceful. And I gave him an example of Ibrahim Traore in Burkina Faso. I gave him the example of Cuba, okay? They did not. Ibrahim Traore did not. Ibrahim Traore, who Malema is really praising right now. Ibrahim Traore did not come to power by negotiating with the French puppet. Okay, he did not do that. Ibrahim Traore, being a military man, you know what a military does? Military people, they don't sit there and negotiate with you. They don't come to you and tell you, hey, let's follow the constitution. Let me, I'll be on the ballot paper so we can have an electoral process. And if you win, you win. No, 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 no. Military, their sole purpose is to defend by means of violence. Okay? Let's not get it twisted. So the French puppet, who was the previous president of Burkina Faso, had no choice but to abdicate his duties as the president or step down, because Ibrahim Traore was very clear. You either get out or we'll remove you by force. That's what a coup d'etat is. Now, some of you might argue that, you know, coup d'etats are not the best. They're illegal. It's a violent way. It's usually bloody. It doesn't have to be bloody, just like the Burkina Faso case. Sometimes, yes, it gets bloody, but it does not have to be bloody. But the larger point I was making is when I said an animal only understands one language and one language alone: the use of force, violence. Okay? Now you can say coup d'etats are illegal, you know, that's not the best way. Now, let me tell you something. The previous leader, the puppet, the French puppet that was leading Burkina Faso, was winning election after elections, okay? Illegally, contravening the constitution. He rigged himself in. He was also breaking the law. So you can't say that Ibrahim Traore is breaking the law by using the coup d'etat, while this president here is actually using what we call a constitutional coup d'etat. He's breaking the constitution by using illegal means to stay in power. Okay? So it's not okay when the French puppet was doing it. Okay? Then you say, oh, it's not okay, you know, Nani, Traore cannot do it. That's why I say Julius Malema, okay, he was not being realistic. He was not being pragmatic. He was not being practical. He was just saying things to sound nice when he came and told us that, oh, if it was meant to be, Raila will be president, but we cannot protest. There should be no violence. Yes, I agree with him in principle. No one wants violence. Violence is the last thing that we need. Okay? But under some circumstances, violence is a necessity. And I gave you the example of Cuba. Fidel Castro, with 1,000 of his friends, tried, okay? They protested when he was in the university to take out, was it Batista, okay? But they didn't succeed. They were jailed. So Fidel Castro understood that the only way he can take out Batista was to go to the mountains. And after he trained, he prepared himself to take out Batista through violence, through force. Because Batista was understood only one language. Batista was propped up by the Americans. So Fidel Castro had to use force to remove Batista. Okay? Thank God it wasn't that bloody. There were people who lost their lives, but it wasn't as bloody as it could have been. That's why I use also Burkina Faso, the same thing as Guinea. Okay? That's why I'm saying sometimes these colonial puppets that rig election year in, year out, they only understand one language, because you're not going to beat them through the electoral process. They have their own people who rig them in, and they get supported by these Western powers, their colonial masters that support them. So in those cases, the only viable way is to take them out through military coup d'etat. That's why the people legitimize Ibrahim Traore in this illegal act that you call it illegal. It was an illegal coup d'etat, yes. But guess what? The previous French puppet was also staying in power illegally. Okay? I know two wrongs don't make it right, but in this case, it was right because the people were tired of the French puppet who sat there and rigged himself in, year out. So Ibrahim Traore took up arms, being a man of military man. He took him out not violently, but forcefully. Okay? That's what I meant. I'm not saying, oh, we should not. It is not a matter of race. It is not a matter of a black on black crime. Yes, we don't want to lose anyone in these exchanges. Thank God it was a bloodless coup d'etat. Give me a minute. Give me a minute. There's a lot of noise here. I'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Just give me a minute. Let me shut down my door. All right. I'm back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm responding to my brother from South Africa who was in the comment section, who was telling me, Julius Malema, the only way is, another issue, okay? The second issue that he was talking about, this idea of borderless Africa, where nobody needs visa. We should go anywhere we want, just like Rwanda just came up with it. Now, I'll give you an example, quick example. Do you know France and Italy right now? They are having tension. There's tension between those two, okay? And Julius Malema also mentioned the idea of borderless nations within Africa. Okay? He mentioned that African countries should stay borderless. If you want to go to Rwanda, you can be able to go to Rwanda without any requirement of visa requirement. If you want to go to Kenya, if you want to go to South Africa, or so forth. And I argued that this is precisely what the global elites want in order to actualize their plan of one world government. I mentioned the importance of sovereignty of nations. You have to be a sovereign nation. I gave an example of France and Italy right now. There's a flood of people, migrants coming from Africa, who are passing over, going to Italy. Some of them are trying to make their way to the France, okay? After what happened in West Africa, especially Libya, and all the commotion that's happening in West Africa. And the Italian Prime Minister said this, hey, listen, we cannot accommodate all these immigrants coming to Italy, because the rule among the European Union is, once an immigrant make it to the mainland of the nation, they can move in any other country, okay? They don't have to stay in Italy. They can go to all the EU nations, because the EU nation has this idea of a borderless Europe within the EU nations, okay? But the Italian Prime Minister say this, you know what? This is unfair, because we are having flood of these African immigrants coming to our country, and we are not unable to sustain this. We cannot, our budgets, we cannot host all these people. So he said, can France please take some of these guys? But guess what the French people did? They closed the border and say, no, we don't want them. Let them stay in Italy. So the Prime Minister is saying this. She got mad and said this. You guys are starting wars in Africa instead of supporting Africa to become self-reliant, where they can feed their people, okay, keep their people there. You guys are starting all this war, destabilizing these nations, and they come as immigrants in Italy, and we cannot keep them. It's destroying our economy, okay? Because now we have to deal with the humanitarian aid to them, give them that. All the healthcare needs they want, all the crime that comes with that, it comes a problem, it destroys the nation. And if you see Italy right now, economically, they're struggling, and they'll continue to struggle because they have this influx of all these nations, Sahara nations, these West African nations, coming to their country, crossing over. But the French has closed. The French people are saying, no, we don't want them. You keep them there. You see what's happening? That's why you see America, they're complaining all the time of all these people that are coming from, they're making their way, by the way. They're making their way to, it's not only from Mexico. These are people from the Middle East. These are people from South of Sahara, and there are people who are doing that. It is to weaken the economic nations of Europe. It is designed by the people in power. This is not an accident. They're not just coming here by accident. Okay? So back to Africa. That's why I say, I gave an example of, if you have a family, your father, your mother, you're the head of the house, and you have your children. You cannot say that my house, the door is open, anyone can come in and eat and do whatever they want and leave. Because we are all we are all Africans or we are all Europeans or whatever the case is. No, you are not going to be able to feed everyone, because if the villagers are coming anytime, living anytime, they're eating your food, where's the sovereignty as a family? You need to be in control of your family, the people who are within your borders, okay? Your children will not have enough food to eat because every villager is coming to your family and eating whatever they want. They're turning your TV, they're turning your... I'm not saying I'm not against immigration. Let's not get that twisted. I'm not against immigration. There's a difference. Immigration is a controlled way of taking over these people, okay? You can be an immigrant, you can come in, but come in legally. That's what I'm saying. But I'm saying this to make a larger point about sovereignty, okay? If we have a borderless Africa, okay, right now, South African economy is not the same as Kenyan economy. Already you see in South Africa, there's a lot of xenophobia, okay? The South Africans. Oh, hello, Mr. Benson. I saw Mr. Benson. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Mr. Benson out there. I have to highlight. It's a very good, very nice show. He interviews young leaders. It's a very good show if you want to learn something about leadership and politics in Kenya, the dynamics of politics in Kenya. Brother Benson is where to go. Go subscribe to his channel. His name is Brother Benson. Just type in Brother Benson Media and you will find him. Very good friend of the show. One day I will interview him whenever he's ready about in fact when I'll see Brother Benson one of these days. We need to talk about Kenyan politics. I'll do that later this evening, but not today. I'll check with you to see your availability so we can talk a little bit, 30 minutes whenever you're ready. But yes, Brother Benson, that's the man to go to for all of you who want interested in Kenyan politics and wants to care much about leadership and stuff like that and the dynamics of Kenyan politics. That's your man to go to. But back to the topic, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends, enemies and comrades. So that's where I disagreed with Malema, because I was giving an example of the xenophobia that's happening in South Africa. You know, the South Africans, most of them, they're looking at let's say Kenyans and Nigerians and other people, other Africans from other nations. They're looking at them as the problem, as they're taking their jobs and they're doing this and they're prospering while they're not. It's a common feeling among a lot of people. The reason why is because South Africa has a stronger economy compared to Kenya. South Africa has a stronger economy compared to Nigeria, okay? So when these people come to their country and take these jobs, okay, the people who are in South Africa, who are jobless, who are suffering, okay, it's easy. They are easier to blame. Politicians do this all the time, even in the US, okay? They try to blame the immigrants, the Mexicans that come here, the El Salvadorians. They say, oh, these people are coming here and destroying our economy because, you know, whatever, they're taking their jobs, whatever. You know, it's easier to blame them. You see? But if the Mexican economy, let's say, for example, was a strong, thriving economy, they will have no reasons to come to the US. Okay? Yes, immigration is okay. I'm okay with the idea of immigrants coming to Kenya, coming to another country for a better living. There's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Okay? But it has to be controlled. Okay? We can't just have half of your population come to one country. It will weaken the country, the hosting country. That's what I'm saying. Because it brings different challenges. Now you see, that's why if you follow US politics, look at California. California is going bankrupt because not only for immigration and other stuff, you know, they've taken over. They can't track them. You know, the LA, there's homelessness and all sorts of things. I'm not saying that this is only due to the people who are immigrating there, but they cannot control who's coming to Californians. The big companies are running away from California because they had to raise taxes. They're doing what Ruto is doing in Kenya. He's raising taxes, thinking that, okay, if I collect more revenue, will help the economy. Instead, the big companies are going to Texas because Texas has very good tax breaks to companies. So all the jobs are getting out of California, and We have an influx of immigration, and they can't host all these people. So you see, crime goes up, homelessness goes up. The government cannot provide for its citizens. That's what I mean. That's why I say there's a negative effect if you cannot control your borders. That's why I'm not supporting this idea of borderless Africa. Ask yourself again this question. In the Sahel treaty between Burkina Faso, Guinea, and Niger, these three countries have a treaty to protect themselves. Okay? They say that any country, in each of these countries, if somebody attacks Niger, Burkina Faso, and Guinea will assist that country militarily, but they never say that they'll have a borderless country, borderless treaty where anybody that comes to Burkina Faso can go to Guinea and can go to Niger. They understood that even though they have this treaty where they assist each other militarily, okay, they were not going to give up their sovereignty by having this borderless Sahel treaty. Okay, the treaty was to help each other economically and through security by using the military means in case one of them is attacked. Okay, so ask yourself, why didn't they say that we should have a borderless whatever? Because they're neighbors, Niger, Burkina Faso, and Guinea. Why didn't they say, hey, well, let's have a borderless whatever? Your people can come to my country and my people can go to your country. Why did they say that? Because they understood the strength of sovereignty, the importance of sovereignty. You have to be a sovereign nation, okay? You have to. So even if we cooperate, if we cooperate one nation to another, I can assist you militarily. I can assist you, help you with your security, help you to grow your economy. But I can't just have your people come to my country and destabilize my society, bringing the economy down and bringing all other challenges down, okay? That's why I'm saying this whole idea that Malema is telling us about borderless Africa is wrong. And you are free to challenge me on anything, any South African pro Julius Malema. Please log in. Tell me, why do you think this idea of borderless Africa is a good idea? I've mentioned one, which is very important. Sovereignty of a nation is very important because, listen, one more example I'll give you. The EU nations, do you know what's the number one complaint that they make right now? Because if you're a member of EU, now you're taking orders from Brussels. Brussels is where the Parliament of the European Union meets. Every member nation meets there. So any decision that is made in Brussels supersedes any nation laws. So if the members of parliament of this EU nation decide that they shall accept, let's say gay marriage, this goes in every member nation. All of them have to accept it. And it supersedes any local law of the member nations. Okay, and the farmers are complaining. You see, go look at your news. The farmers in France, the farmers in Dutch, in Holland, the farmers in Brussels. Okay, they were protesting because Monsanto were approved to sell their seeds. Okay, they're approved in Brussels, in that parliament, European Parliament, and it's affecting the livelihood of the local farmers in France and Belgium and Holland. And they were protesting because they were saying we have lost power. They are making decisions in Brussels while we, the people, they're not caring about us. Our national government has no power anymore. They're making, somebody in Brussels is making a decision for somebody who lives in France. And that's why I say that's the danger of this idea of borderless Africa. Okay, because the next step after that, once you go borderless, they will have this AU where they say, okay, they have a member of parliament and they have a leader. And any decision that's made up there will affect you. It will supersede your local, your constitution will be rendered useless because all the decision will be made at the central area. Okay, there's importance. That's why we have something called devolution in Kenya. Okay, where we are supposed to have this local local government should be autonomous, not entirely dependent on the national government. They should have a symbiotic relationship. They should work together, the local government and the national government. But the local government should be by itself, be self-sustaining. Okay, that's the idea of it. They should be sovereign. But unfortunately, our governors and IMCAs are just looking at that as an opportunity to eat money, to plunder the money. Okay, so that is what I was referring to when I talked about sovereign nation. So hopefully I was clear about the sovereign nation and the idea that I reject this idea of borderless Africa. And number two, I rejected this idea of Julius Malema telling us that violence, even if you lose elections, violence should be a no-go. And I say this, I agree with him in principle, but under some circumstances. And I gave him the example of so many nations, that had to take over power. The people took power in their hands through force, through violent means, because there was no other way. That's why I'm saying Raila Odinga, he has no military. He only has the people. Yes, he could loot if the people are behind him. The majority of the people are behind him. Yes, he can have the people taking power in their hands. And just like in 2017, they were about to take over from Uhuru Kenyatta. Okay, the people went to the street and said, you know what? You're not going to govern us. You have to step down. And unfortunately, Raila went and met and joined hands and legitimized the person who the people rejected. But I'm saying this, in the case of where Raila has no other way, because Uhuru already committed coup d'etat. He did not respect the constitution. He did not respect the courts. He did not respect the parliament. Okay? He declared himself president, okay, by forcing his will on the Kenyan people. And what did the people do? Okay? So in that case, Julius Malema, you cannot come here and tell us that, oh, you know what? We can just sit there and say, oh, Raila will become president one day. Let's just sit there and say it's okay. Uhuru Kenyatta continue ruling. What if Uhuru Kenyatta did that in 2022? The constitution only allowed him 2 terms. What if Uhuru said, I'm going to stay the president till the day I die? Okay? Were we supposed to sit there and be like, oh, no violence, black on black violence. Let's sit there. If it was meant to be, let it be. No. People shall rise. And sometimes, under some special circumstances, if it means violence, we shall remove him violently. That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm telling you, Julius Malema, look at his history. He was against the 1454 law, okay? The law that made the people, the colonizers, came to Zimbabwe and took land from the Zimbabwe, the indigenous people, okay? The same thing they did in South Africa, okay? And Julius Malema was not supporting that. He was supporting that law that let those white settlers take land from Zimbabwe. Mugabe said, no. We are going to fight this. Yes, Mugabe has his problems. He's not a perfect man, but he stood up for the indigenous people. That's why he told the British, listen, that law is no longer applicable. My people need their land. And he started taking them out. And he even told the Dutch and the British, come take your people, fly them back. Because this land is not theirs. He wanted to give the indigenous people their land. But as you can imagine, the Western media painted Mugabe as attacking the white farmers, the white settlers. Okay? Mugabe was on the right. But Malema did not support that. Okay? This is the very person who has been accused of receiving money from the Queen of England, this Julius Malema. That's why I'm saying I am very careful to those people who you call Pan-Africanist. I don't identify myself as Pan-Africanist because the term has been watered down. It has no meaning anymore. I am Kenyan revolutionary. Kenyan revolutionary, I look at Kenya and I rebel against what's wrong with Kenya. Okay? I can join in your struggle in South Africa. I can support you. Go look, read the book, The Long Walk to Freedom by Nelson Mandela. Okay? Nelson Mandela received military training. His people received military training on Koto Sizwe from the Ethiopians. Haile Selassie offered to help them militarily. Okay? He described how he met Haile Selassie. Okay? Go read it. But at no point did Haile Selassie say, bring your people so they can come to Ethiopia. Fly your people. Let the people come to Ethiopia. No, he helped you to become sovereign. He empowered you. He was with you in the struggle. Okay? But he never at one point was willing to give his sovereignty of his nation to accommodate you. He was going to empower you by giving you military power. Okay? Military know-how. Okay? Financial means. He was going to help you, but not to give up his sovereign power to host you. Okay? That's what I'm talking about. That's why I tell you, Julius Malema is a suspect. Now, he was right to say that, to mention that Ruto is a colonial puppet. He's right about that. I agree with him. Ruto is a colonial puppet. But so is he, Julius Malema. That's why I say this was between who, because Ruto is making, he's deceiving a lot of nations. He's been seeing, he's making his fame is rising among Africans who are unsuspecting Africans, seeing him as the next Obama. The Obama of Africa, especially after that speech he gave in France. Okay, the people who are unsuspecting are like, oh, this is the next Obama of Africa. Okay, and Julius Malema doesn't like that, because Julius Malema is also looked at as the next leader, the famous guy in Africa. So he's criticizing Ruto. I don't have a problem with Julius Malema coming to Kenya and criticizing the president of Kenya while he's in Kenya. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, Julius Malema, you should answer. Did you receive money from the Queen of England? Okay, and why are you supporting that law of 1454, the law of discovery, where the Europeans will come to South Africa and take land? Okay, while the Zimbabweans were trying to take back the land and they gave up, they said, we are not following this law. They were fighting those laws. They are under sanctions because of that. Julius Malema, did you receive money from the Queen of England? I told you, these people, some of these leaders are agents. They talk a good talk about Pan-Africanism. But in secrecy, they're in bed with the oppressor. Ask yourself, Julius Malema, with all this controversial stuff that he's saying, why is there was no assassination attempt on him? There's no funny business, because real revolutionaries, they don't make it long. Chris Hani of Koto Sizwe, he was said to be more famous. He was even more famous than Mandela, Nelson Madiba Mandela. Okay? Chris Hani was killed violently. Bantu Steve Biko was a radical, okay? He had real support from the ground, okay? Real revolutionary, was murdered, okay? That's why I tell you, Madiba compromised. Look, go read his book. And I don't blame Mandela for being compromised, because he was in a position where he could not win. He had to agree to the deal, because first of all, he was a prisoner. They had control. They had access in him. So if they wanted to kill him, they would have killed him and make up some stuff. So he had to agree to play along. And Malema said it rightly when he was in Oxford giving a speech. He said that we should carry out the baton and take it to the next level, because Mandela did his job. Okay, so it is up to us to take it to the next level. So in that I agree, but he was compromised. That's why I say, if you look at historically in every black revolutionary movement, the people who survive, who stay alive, if you look at their history, they've always been compromised. The people who did not agree to compromise were the people who got killed. Go listen. Look at Malcolm X. Malcolm X and Louis, what's his name? The Farrakhan. Okay, Farrakhan wanted Malcolm X dead. Malcolm X, there's a clip I can play you right now if you want. He said he discovered that the Nation of Islam, okay, was being given money by a Texas billionaire. It was founded by a Texas billionaire. It was infiltrated. This was CIA. It was created to confront, you know, to confront the movement by what's his name, Martin Luther King. Okay, to divide the black population, because there were so many people who were gravitating towards Martin Luther King. So they started this Nation of Islam to divide the people. Okay, and when Malcolm X discovered this, he made a speech, and that's where he said, "I'm a dead man walking." And indeed, a few months later, he was murdered after making that speech, because he discovered. And guess who opened the eye of Malcolm X? It was a Kenyan, the Indian Kenyan. What's his name? The guy he was in the Jomo Kenyatta regime. He opposed Jomo Kenyatta. What's his name? That Indian guy. I forget his name. Please, somebody remind me of the chat. That great Indian man. Okay, he was a Kenyan Indian. I forgot his name. Him along with Tom Mboya. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is this: in any black revolutionary movement, the people who always get killed in that movement are the people who are radical, uncompromising leaders. The ones that survive are ones that compromise with the master, the colonial master. Do your own research. Don't take my word for it. Do your own research. Do your own research. Your own research. I can't do homework for you. That's why I'm telling you, Julius Malema. Even look even in that book by Madiba, he mentioned Ramaphosa and what's the other, Jacob Zuma. They were young Turks in those days. They were very radical. They were all for change when they were in ANC. Okay? But look at Ramaphosa right now. Ramaphosa is riddled with corruption. He almost went to, they took him to court. They wanted to jail him. The same thing with Jacob Zuma. Once they got to power, they were compromised. And part of the deal was these corporations, this gold company that is controlling gold in South Africa, they offered to give Jacob Zuma and Ramaphosa some shares. Okay? That's what I'm telling you. They offer you money and everything in shares in their company so that they can continue controlling your resources. Ramaphosa was a radical revolutionary during his days in ANC when he was young. And Mandela wrote it's a very good book. Go get it. It's called The Long Walk to Freedom by Nelson Mandela. Go read it. Okay, he writes. He mentioned Ramaphosa and Jacob Zuma. These were young Turks back then who were radical. But once they get to power, they had to negotiate. They had to compromise. Because, as Henry Clark said, this great professor from Harlem, who lived in Kwame Nkrumah, mentioned, as a nation, you cannot call yourself a nation if you're not sovereign. How do you become sovereign? You are only sovereign if you control your own military, if you control your own minerals, your natural resources. You have to be in control of that. And in order to be in control of that, you have to have a military that is able to defend from these colonial masters. What is helping Traore? Traore is being helped by the Wagner, the Russians. That's why he's able to control the uranium that they have, the gold that they have. Okay? That's why he hasn't been attacked yet. But if you read, he has survived already more than five assassination attempts, because the British and the French and the Americans want to take him out. They want control of his resources. So in order to become a nation, you have to be in control of your resources. That's why I'm saying we are colonized, still colonized directly, because we don't have control of our natural resources. Same thing. Go look at South Africa. South Africa not in control with the gold. How is the gold and the minerals and the diamonds that they have in South Africa? How is it helping the local people? Huh? That's what Jacob Zuma, EFF, Malema should talk about. Economic, freedom, right? That's his movement. Okay? So that's what I'm saying. In order to become a nation, you have to maintain your sovereignty. And that is being control of your borders. And how do you control your borders? Through a strong military. And how do you have to control your natural resources? Through a strong military. Okay? And these minerals and natural resources should be used to help your people. You trade to help your people, to bring your people up the social economic ladder. That's what I mean. So I agree with Julius Malema in principle, but in some issues I do not agree. Okay, when he talks about violence, yes, violence, I'm wrong with it. Just to wrap up, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be going live the second time in like 2 hours, and I will be talking about, this will be mostly Kenyan based. I'll talk about the people who are really economically bringing us down. Let's not play this. Let's not get excited about this, the musical chairs that these guys are playing, whether it's Uhuru, Ruto, and all of. Let's not focus on that. I want to focus on the money that they stole. And Jimmy Wanjigi, I want to mention what Jimmy Wanjigi discovered, okay, when it comes to SGR and all that stuff, because we can play these games and mention Kalonzo, Raila, all this, but the people who have stolen the money, trillions of shillings, Kenyan shillings, that have been stolen through the Kenyan treasury and the deals, the money laundering that has happened, it will help you understand why the cost of living in Kenya is so high. Let's not focus on individuals, because I see a lot of debate, and it's everywhere in Africa. We only debate personalities. Oh, if Raila is the president, he's going to do better. If Ruto is the president, he can help the economy. If Uhuru was the president, he'll help the economy. Kibaki help the economy. It's a superficial discussion on what's really happening in Kenya. Superficial, because we are so wrapped up in personalities. Okay, oh, this is better than who. Let's get to the root cause of the problem, and that's what's my next live is going to be about. Okay, so hopefully my friends from South Africa who are commenting in my last live, I hope you get a clarification. I was not attacking Julius Malema, but I questioned Julius Malema's credential as a pan-Africanist. Okay, so join me in my next live. If you want to catch me in my next live, please go ahead. Subscribe to my name in YouTube. My name is Kenyan Revolutionary, as you can see on the screen right here. Kenyan Revolutionary. Subscribe, like, share, so you can catch me on the next live that I'm coming in the next 2 hours. I'll probably start at 3 p.m. Eastern time. Wherever you are, I will go on and talk about Jimmy Wanjigi, the discovery that he made, and as it relates to the people who are actually making us pay, affecting the cost of living, whether it's the cost of food, prices, commodities, and all that stuff. Join me then. Anyway, my name is Kenyan Revolutionary. Join me at 3. I will be live. Join me. You can join the studio and talk to me. I will put the link, but I'll be back. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends, enemies, and comrades, this is Kenyan Revolutionary. I'll talk to you in 2 hours or so. Peace and blessings, and I'll talk to you later, okay?